today we're gonna do a super easy and quick page. We're going to be tackling prompt number 19 from my prompt list, which is linked below. Look up facts about a topic you're interested in. Write down 3 things you have learned. Welcome, this is Barbara from Vienna, Austria, and this is your channel for vintage inspired art. So I love this prompt because when you're a grown-up, you get to research the things that you're actually interested in rather than having to learn things you're not interested in, like in school. And since I've been working with a lot of butterflies in my current journal, as I'm saying that, I don't really find any here. Okay, there is one here. But I do actually have a lot in this signature, which of course also is going to be part of the journal that I am working on. There's a butterfly here. Of course, we have all these beautiful butterflies here and so on. Butterfly. So there's so many butterflies in this journal. August seems to be the month of butterflies for me. So I thought that's the topic I need to research. I need to know more about butterflies. So hopefully there'll be some new and interesting facts in this for you as well. And I decided I'm going to be working in this signature here. Specifically, I'm going to be working on this page. Unfortunately, I'm going to be covering these beautiful chairs, but I think this page will work really well with this insert here that we made. So if you missed any of my videos, as always, I will have my playlist for my Junk Journal with Me episodes linked below for you in case you want to see how I made any of these spreads that you see here. So what has inspired me for this page or for creating this butterfly page is actually my steampunk journal. And if you're interested in seeing this in more detail, I do have flip-throughs and some videos as well about how I made this, so I will link those for you as well in case you're interested. But what inspired me was specifically this butterfly wing here. So this was a bought one that I have just vintaged and steampunked up, and I included it in the spiral binding with my cinch. Now of course I'm not doing a spiral binding, but this was inspiration to do something else. And what I'm going to do is I wanted to create butterfly wings that I can insert in a signature. And to do that best, I thought, okay, how am I going to draw butterfly wings? And since I'm not great at freehand drawing, I thought, okay, what resources can I use? And I came back to the Biodiversity Heritage site, which has some copyright-free images, vintage images, and I'm again going to link this site and some instructions for you below as well. And I printed this butterfly, and I have linked this page for you specifically below as well, so you can just download it as a PDF and you can use it exactly the same way that I'm going to be using it. So of course, one thing you can do is you can just cut this out and use the wings as they are, but I wanted to do something a little bit differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these wings out and use them to draw another set of wings on some heavier cardstock that we are then going to cover with napkins. So I'm going to start out first by just fussy cutting this butterfly image so that I have the shapes of the wings. So this is what it looks like once it's cut out. And by the way, I printed this at 80%. So when you download the PDF, if you just print it at 80%, you will get exactly the size that I have now. But it depends, of course, on your journal size. Maybe 100% will work for you. I didn't want it that huge, but actually it also would have been okay. So now I'm going to take this butterfly, and I have some white cardstock here, which is from an old photo album. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace this, and then we're going to be cutting out this as well. And of course, I'm also going to be using the butterfly, I mean this printed butterfly in some other project because it's just beautiful. So if you haven't checked out the Biodiversity Heritage site, you really should, because it has really great free resources for you for vintage illustrations. Okay, I have my butterfly shape here now, and now we're going to cut this one out. Next, I want to erase my pencil lines. Don't want any of those showing through. And for the front side of my butterfly, I'm going to be using this beautiful floral napkin that I received also in Happy Mail. I'm going to take off 2 of the 3 plies, and I think the best way to do it is just take a piece of standard tape, not washi tape, but real tape, and just put it on your napkin, pull it off, and then you have this hole. And I think that works a lot easier than trying to separate them at the corner. Now I just take the other half of my tape and do the same thing. Oh, it's not sticky enough. Okay, I'll take a new piece of tape. There we go. So I think most napkins have 3 layers, but I have also seen some with only 2 or even with 4. So you always have to check your napkin. But once you see it is this see-through, it's definitely the last layer. And given that I am horrible with decoupaging and I think it's so messy and I really don't enjoy it, I'm going to do a much more simpler method, which I've also used in the past. I'm just going to use my glue stick to glue it down. Maybe I will put some Mod Podge over it later once it's adhered, but for now I'm just gonna put glue stick all over my butterfly. And now I'm going to take my napkin and gently place it over, starting at one corner and just gently pressing it down, trying not to have too many wrinkles. And then I'm gently going to use my bone folder, or you can use something like a credit card thing to make sure it's really adhered. Now I'm turning it around and I'm going to simply cut the excess away. What you could also do, if you don't want to cut it, you could use a nail file or some sandpaper to sand the edges off. That works really well too and will probably look a little more organic. But I'm just going to use my scissors now. So that's what we have now, and I think it's really cute. And I think I might actually go over it with Mod Podge afterwards. But first I also want to do the other side, because since I'm not going to glue the butterfly flat down, but it's going to be like a loose page, you're also going to be able to see the back side. And I thought I would use this napkin here, which I bought myself locally. And I'm just going to do the same thing with separating the plies. Okay, I tore it here a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to try to adhere it again. I don't think you'll actually see it because we're going to be putting something on the edge anyway. So this is the back side now of my butterfly, and now I just want to go around and make sure that all the edges are adhered well, and I especially need to do that if I'm not going to put decoupage over it to seal anything in. And I actually think I'm not going to do that. I really like the feel of the napkin as it is because it almost feels like fabric. And I like that, and I like not having to deal with the decoupage mess. I think we are good to go. And next I want to give it, of course, a little bit more of a vintage vibe. And so I'm going to use my vintage photo, or you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm actually going to take my tea dye first, my tea dye Distress Oxide, and use my blending brush. Both of these are linked for you below. And I'm going to first go around it with this, which is going to be a little more subtle. If you don't have any of this, but maybe you have a regular ink pad, you can also, of course, use your ink pad to go around the edges like this to define them. And you can use any color that will work with your design, or just use black or brown. So there's many options. What you can also do if you don't even have that is maybe if you have, for example, colored pencils or crayons, maybe water soluble, you could go around them on the edge, and then if they're water soluble, you can kind of dilute them from the edge to get a nice edging as well. So there's many options. You don't need to have these fancy tools right here. So this is very subtle. I don't even know if the camera is picking it up, but I like this a lot. It just looks a little bit more aged, like it's been laying around for years and years on a shelf. Sometimes I try to explain to my hubby why I'm trying to make new things look old. I'm not sure he really gets the fascination of it. He just thinks I'm crazy. So I don't know if you can see it a lot. Yeah, probably not so much, but it's fine. I see it. And then I'm going to use the vintage photo with my other blending tool. And I'm going to go around the edge, and of course this you're going to see a lot more. So now we have a gorgeous big butterfly. Isn't that cool? Now I want to carefully try to score it in the middle, since it's going to be in a middle of a signature. I really hope that the napkin is not going to tear. Obviously, you could also just fold it, but I don't trust myself folding this well. So I'm using my scoreboard. Let's see. Being very gentle. Okay, I think that is good enough to help me crease it. So now I folded it in half. Perfect. So now it will be easier to put it into our signature. Next, I actually want to talk about the facts that I learned about butterflies. So enjoy this little presentation that I have prepared for you. 3 fascinating facts about butterflies. Butterfly wings are transparent. How can that be? We know butterflies are as perhaps the most colorful, vibrant insects around. Well, a butterfly's wings are covered by thousands of tiny scales, and these scales reflect light in different colors. But underneath all those scales, a butterfly wing is actually formed by layers of chitin. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The same protein that makes up an insect's exoskeleton. These layers are so thin you can see right through them. As a butterfly ages, scales fall off the wings, leaving spots of transparency where the chitin layer is exposed. Butterflies taste with their feet. Butterflies have taste receptors on their feet to help them find their host plants and locate food. A female butterfly lands on different plants, drumming the leaves with her feet until the plant releases its juices. Spines on the back of her legs have chemoreceptors that detect the right match of plant chemicals. When she identifies the right plant, she lays her eggs. A butterfly of any biological sex will also step on its food, using organs that sense dissolved sugars to taste food sources like fermenting fruit. Butterflies drink from mud puddles. A butterfly cannot live on sugar alone. It needs minerals too. To supplement its diet of nectar, a butterfly will occasionally sip from mud puddles, which are rich in minerals and salts. This behavior, called puddling, occurs more often in male butterflies, which incorporate the minerals into their sperm. These nutrients are then transferred to the female during mating and help improve the viability of her eggs. So with new appreciation now for all that butterflies are, maybe you would enjoy seeing some bees and butterflies that I filmed on a recent walk with my BFF and her dog. So enjoy for a minute and then we'll go back to crafting. So I hope you enjoyed seeing all those beautiful butterflies from my walk. And now the next step for me is I wanted to, of course, incorporate these facts somehow onto my page in my journal. And I thought the best way to do that would be to put them on this page. Now, honestly, I'm too lazy to handwrite all this information. So I went ahead and I printed the information. I just copied from the website that I found these facts on, and I will link that website for you below as well in case you want to read more about butterflies. The site had 10 fascinating facts about butterflies and I just picked 3. So I printed them on coffee stained paper and I printed them in 2 columns in a Word document so that they would fit well into my journal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper, just gonna remove the tag, and since my A4 paper is too wide, I'm going to trace around it so that it fits exactly, and I'm going to try to do this as straight as possible. And since I want a rough edge, I'm going to use my tearing ruler, which is again also linked for you below. And I'm going to tear a little bit smaller than what I drew. Always hold your ruler to the smaller edge that you're tearing. Meaning, don't hold it like this and try to tear the small edge. But do it the other way around. It's a lot easier, but be sure to hold your ruler tight. So here's our page, and it fits well here. I'm also going to ink up the edges, of course, with vintage photo. And I also want to decorate this page a little bit more. And I took out all my stamps that have some butterfly images on them. I'm guessing you have some kind of stamps with butterflies on them, or you could just cut some out from a printout you have from a digital, from a vintage book or something, and you could just glue them on here in some way. If you have stamps, you can do that as well. And I'm going to use my permanent ink. So this is my jet black one, archival ink, because maybe I want to color these. I'm not sure yet, but I want to have the option of using some water-soluble medium on them. Oh no, look what I did. That's a bummer. Well, I'm just gonna leave it now because I'm not printing this again. Three, as always, is a good number, I think. So I'm gonna leave it at that. So there's 1, 2, and 3. I do want to try coloring them just because coloring is so much fun. And I chose some colors from my, actually it's a mixture of Faber-Castell and Caran d'Ache water-soluble color pencils. And so these are the colors I chose. I kind of like starting from the inside with some darker colors. And of course, doing more or less the same on both sides. If you don't have water soluble, you can just use colored pencils. They don't have to be water soluble. And you could also use, of course, watercolors or crayons or markers, anything you have. And then I'm just moving to lighter colors towards the outside. And on the very outside, I'll give them some yellow on the tips. Let's see what that would look like if we add some water. So this is a water brush, has a very nice fine tip. And I'm gonna blend from the outside in just because I don't want to smear the dark color into the yellow. Oh, this is beautiful. I love how they blend. So it's as easy as that. Let's try some different colors for this next butterfly. So I'm going with these. Again, I'm going to start with the darkest one inside. Then I'll move on to the lighter turquoise blue kind of color. And then outside again the lightest one, and this is like more like a neon yellow type. Again, starting from the outside with the light colors and then moving in towards the center. Wow. And the third one is pretty dark, so I don't know how much we're going to see of that. I use this one. This one is gonna show up really well. And then, well, maybe I can use a little bit of this orange. I don't know if it's actually going to show up well. And then we could use some pink, why not? Oh, see, I should have started from the outside. So what I'm doing in between is I'm just wiping the brush on a scrap piece of paper to get rid of the color. Now what I think I'm also going to do is, because the black is not always as black as I want it to be, especially like on this one. And also maybe on this one on some parts. So I will go over it with just a regular black, like a fine liner. This is 0.3. Especially like here, the body. You see the body? I mean, it looks vintage like this, broken up like that. But I kind of want it to be defined a little bit more than it is. So I'm just going to go around some of the areas, maybe not all, definitely around the edge. Because of course, adding the watercolor pencils takes away the black as well. So it turns more into a gray. There. And I'll do it here a little bit as well. This one is actually still looking pretty good, so I don't have to do a lot here. So now it's time to just glue our page onto this page. I am using my 3-in-1 glue, it's linked below, but use whatever glue you know works for you. Could be a glue stick, could be tacky glue, but tacky glue, I think you need to be careful, because I think tacky glue oftentimes makes your page wavy. So maybe a glue stick is better than tacky glue. Each glue has its own purpose, I think. They're all good for something and not so good for other things. Now I'm going to fold it. And of course I don't want the white edges. So I will take my blending brush and my tea dye and go over those. Again, if you don't have this, you can use anything from, I mean, if you even have white edges showing, that's the question. But if you want to get rid of white edges, you can go along the edges with a marker, with a crayon, with color pencils. There's really a lot of options. So this is what we have now. And so the point is then, when we bind our journal, that this is going to be on top of the page but not glued down, so that you can still read the facts, but you do have this beautiful butterfly in the middle of your page. So we will sew that in to be the middle. Just gonna add this now. Oh, actually I wanted this to be my middle, right? Because this kind of is nice as a middle too. So now my question is, do I just leave it like this? It's kind of weird. So maybe I'll have to figure this out once I bind my journal. So either I'm gonna have to put this in another middle somewhere, or maybe this isn't going to be a middle, but I think this really needs to be the center of a signature. But how easy is it to make your own gorgeous butterfly? I just love this. Maybe we put this in between here, like that. And this flips up. And then we have this. And then we have this. Yeah, I think that works. Let's do that for now. We can still decide later. So these are the two we have so far. And I think I'm not done with this one. I think this one is gonna have one more page, or we'll see once I finish all the pages how fat this one will be, because I still have 1, 2 pages, 3 pages to go. So probably that will be big enough. And then maybe one more signature, and then it'll be time to think about what kind of cover we will make for this. So go ahead and make your butterflies, no excuses. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love you guys. Mwah, mwah.